I don't see myself as like an ultra creative, but I definitely have a creative outlook. I am not an operational person, right? I'm not like a task oriented, like I attack and get it done. Let's go for it.
Welcome to the Artful Dollar podcast. I am Ryan Roy, and I'm here to talk about money, but from a completely new perspective, from the perspective of spirituality, of art, creativity, philosophy, psychology, and anything else outside of the normal money conversation. Because let's be honest, the normal money conversation sucks. We are not really talking about it. It's taboo. It is icky. It's cringy. And I want to get rid of that. I want to have really fruitful, productive conversations about money that are actionable, where you are going to hear some conversations today in this episode and in all future episodes that you can take something from and put that into real application in your life. So the episode today is one that I recorded a while ago, and my crippling perfectionism did not allow me to get it out into the world in the time that I wanted it to. It's something I struggle with, and I know a lot of artists struggle with themselves. And it's a conversation with a man named Mike Taylor. He was a professional skateboarder. So I'm here to talk to a professional skateboarder about money. But the thing about Mike is that, like myself, I come from a tattooing background. He comes from a skateboarding background, and we both ended up in the world of finance. So he now runs a company called Commune Capital. Let me see if I got his LinkedIn page up in here. Yeah, Commune Capital. They invest in all different kinds of properties, and they are private equity. So they get other investors' money, they pool it together, and they make magic happen. They turn money into more money. He is also a city council member. So that's something he's recently done since I had recorded this podcast. And it's just amazing to see people like him, like myself, and so many others kind of climbing up and out of the realm that they started in. Not that there's anything wrong or bad about tattooing or skateboarding, but like, what else is out there? I think a lot of us get stuck in our scene, and we don't really realize that we're capable of far more, far greater, bigger things. Again, not talking down on anything, but just acknowledging that we don't have to stay in the identity that we stood in for so many years. We can step outside of it. And we talked a little bit about that on this episode, of the uncomfortability of branching outside of your normal comfort zone, your box, and your scene, your people. So with that, I don't want to give any other further introduction. You're going to hear it from the man, Mike Taylor, and I'm excited for you to take something really valuable. This conversation, I'll just say, last thing, it is worth over $1 million. I had that feeling when I recorded it, that the knowledge, the wisdom that we offered in this conversation is so valuable, and I want to give it to you for free on this podcast. So check it out, Mike Taylor. You can look up on Mike Taylor on Instagram as well. I'll post in the description his links, because he also shares a lot of financial education on there. And we'll let it rip. Mike, what's up, dude? How you doing?
What's up? Doing good.
This is really our second conversation, so it's also a good opportunity to learn a little bit about each other more. But, you know, I've been following you for, I don't know, I guess the past year on social media, and just so inspired by just who you are, your presence, and the information. And you and I share a similar mission, which is, let's educate, let's empower people that are underserved by the financial service industry.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Even the time that we spoke before, there's a lot of crossover between us. So it's cool that we, started doing this for our kind of niche or our community. And then, for art or tattoo and skateboarding, which has kind of always gone hand in hand in a lot of ways. And now you and me are, playing around the finance space. It's cool.
Yeah, dude. Let's talk about your company. Let's talk about you, your background. I think people who are listening to this really aren't going to be familiar with you.
Right.
So, yeah.
Get into it.
Get into it. You're a skateboarder, and you know
right.
something or two about money. That's all I know about you.
So basically, I picked up a skateboard when I was a kid. And I didn't really think
End of story.
Basically, I just wasn't thinking it was going to change my life. I was just like, oh, a skateboard, cool. And it definitely changed everything for me. I fell in love with it. It's all I wanted to do. Right when I was kind of around 16, my parents started putting pressure on me to get a job. I didn't want to work because I wanted to continue to skate. So I came up with this plan that I could basically go out and get sponsors. And those sponsors would give me free skateboards, free shoes, free clothes.
What year
And
was this, by the way?
this was
When you
probably
started this, like getting sponsors or looking
this was
for them?
probably 98. And so I go out and try to get sponsors with the idea that anything I would need to buy, I would get for free. And then
Mhm.
anything else beyond, like, the essentials, at least that I saw, which were shoes, clothes, and skateboards, I could sell that product to then maybe like go buy food, or like I had a car, so like pay for gas, etc.
And who told you to do this?
You know what? I had a couple
Did you just make this
friends.
up out of nowhere? Like,
Well, yes and no. The good thing is my parents moved into this city when I was 15,
what
and
city was it?
it was called Newbury Park.
Okay.
So I grew up in a city called Oak Park. My parents moved to Newbury Park, and in Newbury Park, for whatever reason, there was like the most insane like skate culture there, to the point where 6 of my like childhood friends turned pro. That never happens, right?
Wow.
It's usually like one unicorn scenario in each city. Like Newbury Park was special when it came to skateboarding. So when I got there, everyone was incredible. Everyone was doing tricks that we were seeing in the videos, and almost all of my friends were sponsored. So
Whoa.
seeing that they were sponsored, it was like, I just go get sponsored. This solves the
That's
problem.
what you do.
So
Yeah.
I basically sent videos out to companies. A couple of them started sponsoring me. And so like I was good. My parents got off my back. I had free stuff. I was slanging it to the kids. And that lasted till I was about 18. And then at 18, I started getting the opportunity to start traveling with my sponsors. And so I kind of made the decision to not go to college and to continue to skate. And then my
How
career
did
just
that
started.
bode with your folks?
Nuts. My parents were not stoked. They were
Not
terrified.
less than stoked. Yeah.
Less than very, very, very concerned. But I basically told them, I'm like, look, like I've got an opportunity to like go see the world. Like I graduated in June. By July, I had been to Italy, I had been to France, I've been to Germany. Like I was all over the board. And so I was like, look, I'll do this for like a few years and then I'll go back to school, like whatever. There's no like age requirement on going back.
Right.
And then my career just basically exploded. And I started making money, and then I started making more than my parents. And they were like, yo, this is amazing. Like you should convince your little brother to do this, right? It was like such a
Like, we're
change
so
of
glad
tone.
we didn't tell you to go to college.
Right. Right. But one of the caveats was my parents wanted me to get help as it pertains to making money. They wanted me to have somebody help me build out a plan, build out a budget, help me invest, so that I wasn't wasting all the money I was making when I was young.
Yeah.
And that was a very pivotal moment for me, because that really changed everything. And so I start skateboarding. I have this mentor slash financial advisor slash kind of big brother, and I'm basically living like I'm broke and trying to make as much money as I possibly can skateboarding until about 2011. And 2011 is when I started my first business. I started it with 2 of my friends in the craft beer industry. We started a company called St. Archer, and we had an idea. We didn't have enough money to do it. So we went out and basically created a business plan. We went out, raised money from investors. We launched our company. The company became like one of the fastest growing breweries in California. It just exploded. We ended up selling our business to Miller Coors in 2015. And then
Wow.
after that, I started my current company, which is Commune Capital. And we are a private equity real estate firm. So we go out and raise money from investors. We then manage those dollars by putting them into either storage units or apartment buildings, or we have a debt fund as well. And then we go out to try to make a return to our investors. And then when we do that, our company gets to participate in that as well.
Right. Right. So,
And now I'm here.
and now you're here talking to this tattoo artist.
Right.
Cool. So I feel like people that listen to this might not know what private equity means. Do you want to, in your own words, describe?
Yeah. So basically what it means is that you go out and basically crowdfund or crowdsource investment from like individuals, right? So basically there's private equity, and then there's like institutional investors. Institutional investors would be like these huge hedge funds that we know of, Black Rocks. And, we go to individuals that are like you, like me, somebody in sales, a doctor, attorney, and we basically bring all of them together to invest personally in our assets.
Right. Now, these people they're already high net worth people. to be able to invest in private equity?
Yeah. So
there's you have to be an accredited investor, right? Which I believe is 2 million in the bank, 250K a year or something like that.
You qualify by either income or net worth, one or
Right.
the other. So if you're an individual, you have to make over $200,000 a year for 2 years.
Right.
If you're married, it's got to be 300,000, or you have to have a net worth of $1 million, excluding your primary residence, is the qualifications for it. And for all of our funds, you have to be an accredited investor, but we have a new one that we're about to send off to the SEC that will remove that qualification. So once or the expectation is if they approve it, then anyone can invest with us.
Very cool. Yeah. I myself am not yet an accredited investor. I plan to be, but I am intrigued. Like there's even a company, I think Sweater.
I think you are an accredited investor because if you work in the financial industry, and I think by having I have a
Series 65 license. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think because this was a new change that happened last year that that you would be accredited because you work in the financial industry and have a series, right?
Because I answered a bunch of really dumb questions.
Right.
Really confusing dumb questions.
It's one of those things, right? Like what the SEC says is they say, look, we want to make sure that you understand risk. If somebody's going to be investing in an illiquid investment, we know the power of marketing and we want to make sure that you're not being taken advantage of. So they basically justify it as if you make a certain amount of money, you know better. Now, the problem
it's designed to help mom and pop. That's kind of how the SEC sees it.
Correct. So if we take that at face value, that's why they do it. The problem with that, I have friends that are making $3-4 million a year. They don't know anything about money. I have friends that are making 80 grand a year and they're sharp about money. So it's like,
And then if you want to, pull out a second mortgage on your house and invest in a scary, very risky asset, there's always Bitcoin and other things like that. Not talking against crypto, but just saying there's no regulation around having people hurt themselves in that way. And then they can't go to someone like you who is really educated, has a ton of experience, and hand their money over to you because they're not accredited.
You can day trade your money away.
Right.
No problem. But look, they'll say that but that's, it's the illiquid component of real estate. That's the risk in their eyes.
When do you think this new fund that you have going on is going to be available? I had no idea about it. So this is the first time hearing about it.
So we are really close to sending it off. And then at that point, it's
are there like rules about talking about it? I don't know if there's
basically, I can't like officially
clip it if there is.
I can't promote it, but basically how the order goes, we send it off to the SEC, then the SEC goes through their approval process.
Yeah.
The amount of time that could take can range. So what I'm hoping for, January 1.
Right. But we're not promoting anything right now.
Not yet. No. I have nothing to promote yet. Yeah.
We're not talking about anything.
Right.
Got it. Cool, man. Very, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's why I just was like, I latched on. I saw your videos. I was like, I mean, I have my own experience being in the world of financial services, but like feeling like I'm coming from Mars and visiting another planet. Like, do you ever have that feeling ever?
Well, if I'm hearing it right, I have had that feeling. And there's two parts of it. I had the feeling a lot when I first started the company. Like I would go into meetings with people and feel uncomfortable, right? Like with skateboarding, skateboarding. And then when we went into beer, like, dude, it was a bunch of just like people who liked beer and figured out how to start companies, right?
Right. So you like beer? I like beer.
We were the same way. When we started Commune, now all of a sudden, like I'm having meetings with people in suits. I'm talking to billionaires. Like the caliber in a sense of success was raised. And so like I'm sitting.
I call that whole world, by the way, bros in a blazer. That's
right.
If you want to talk finances and you don't want to talk to a bro in a blazer, you can come to me.
Right.
If you want, Chad from Fidelity, like he's there waiting for you,
Right. So like I would go into these meetings though, and like I would sit down and like people would be looking at me like, what are you? Are you like the intern? And so like in the beginning, I was like, God, I'm so uncomfortable. Like even when I would go to speak, like I wasn't speaking like my normal self. I was more timid. I wasn't comfortable in that sphere yet. And like finally, like I bumped into one of my buddies. He's like, dude, you being the different one actually throws them off, but you need to use that for your advantage. That is not a weakness. That's a strength of yours, right? You are capable of doing this. You started the freaking company. You skipped what everyone else traditionally did and created the company over here. That is a skill set and an advantage. Own that. And I was like, shoot, okay. And then
Yeah.
I just started working on it where, you know what, I'm going to go into these meetings and like actually be like confident in myself. And like, I deserve to be here because I started this freaking thing, and you're either doing business with us or you're not. And it became a
Yeah.
different thing. And then it started working to my benefit, but it was uncomfortable in the beginning for sure. And then I would say the other one, like I have a lot of skaters that still follow me. So like
Right.
this happened like 3 weeks ago. I went to this big skate premiere, and this really famous skater runs up to me and he goes, Mikey, I follow your social media. I have no clue what you're talking about. I don't even know what you do. It makes no sense, but it looks rad, you know? So like, there's that side of it also.
Do you ever have, I have this fear sometime that like some tattoo artist out there, someone's going to I really care, but like someone's going to be like, think I'm a sellout or some sort of like money hungry, grubby. I don't know. Like I worry that like people are going to perceive me that way. And maybe that's just a total like psycho fear in my own head. You ever have that fear?
Of course.
Or anyone call you out on anything?
So it's an insecurity that
Yeah.
I had as well. The reality is, yes, people are going to say that about you.
Absolutely.
So what?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? There's going to be also people that are going to go, thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
And so, you know, what I've learned is if I had 100 people tell me you're a sellout, but I had one person say, dude, you changed my life, that's worth it. Right.
100%.
The hard part is the same thing happens though, when you have 100 people that say, dude, thank you so much, this is awesome. Then you have one person that tell you you're a sellout. You remember the one person, you forget
it's
about
like all you think about. Yeah.
Right.
I had whatever, we go through our stuff in life, and someone was very upset with me. This is years ago, before, in the tattoo industry, it's really not hard to, you can't throw a rock without hitting 12 people that will be very mad at you for a number of reasons. In the tattoo industry, maybe that's, in universal, but I realized that like, if you go through your life without having anyone like get real pissed at you for something, like I think you're actually playing too small of a game in your life.
Right. Right. I was listening to somebody say this the other day. They were basically giving this analogy that the haters are actually more of your fans than people who are just kind of lukewarm on you. Right. And it was just really interesting. Like when you think about it, like when people are hating on you, they're actually thinking about you. You are consuming their thoughts, right?
Yeah.
And you're getting action out of them. The ones that are lukewarm, you don't get anything, right? So when you think about like how you create something special, you've got to have people hate you, because that also means you're going to have people that love you. So you want people to love you, which means you're going to have people hate you. That is way better than just having people that are whatever about you. It means you're not making impact.
Yeah.
You know?
When I started, using my social media to go from sharing tattoos to sharing financial advice, I mean, dude, I was so scared. I was like, oh, everyone's going to judge me and hate me. And so I'd make a post and I would like lose like 20 followers. And then someone would message me and they would say, dude, thank you for sharing this. The world needs to hear this. And that one person, if anyone listening to this was that person, I want you to know how much that meant to me. It carried me through some times where I was like, just doubting myself, just fearing like, oh, judgment, So you're absolutely right. It's like, I would rather have 100 people hate on what I'm doing. I'm not hurting those people. And have one person who I positively benefited their life because I decided to be vulnerable and share something that I think is important. I would pick that, 10 out of 10.
Right. I would too. And I went through the same thing. I know what that felt like.
Yeah. So you were saying that you had this financial advisor, mentor. In your opinion, how important is it to have a mentor or someone guide you if you're looking to accomplish, reach your goals in life, whether they're, starting a venture capital or a private equity fund, or you just want to create the career of your dreams? How important is it to have a mentor?
It can save you decades of time. It's massive. And it's massive for kind of two reasons. One, by being around somebody who's doing something at a higher level, by seeing that it's possible, you don't have to work through these barriers of not knowing if you can do it. Right. There's comfort in seeing others doing it. So it helps raise the bar in which you're going to set as possible or impossible. The second thing is being around somebody that does it. You're going to skip a lot of trial and error because they're going to show you what to avoid. Right. Same thing happened to me. It was like I had somebody come into my life in the very beginning and starting asking me questions on how to build a solid foundation first and then scale that foundation second. Where if I wouldn't have had him, I wouldn't have built a foundation. I would have just been trying things. And
Right.
it probably would have taken me 2 decades to go, now I get it. I skipped all of that. So it's
Yeah.
powerful, really powerful.
Hey, all you Artful listeners, I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you for giving a listen to the podcast. I hope that it's bringing some value to you in your life. That's really why I started this podcast. And if you're getting something useful or valuable out of it, I just want to invite you to go rate and review this podcast. It really helps me out. And it also helps other people find this podcast so that they can get some value out of it. They can feel more free around money and just get some wisdom and some knowledge that we're trying to share on here. So again, I'm not really asking anything else of you other than to just leave a review and rating for this podcast. It really helps me out and helps other people find us. So thanks and enjoy the show. How would you suggest someone look for a mentor, and how would you know if you found a good mentor? Like, are there certain qualities or a feeling that you're looking for?
Yeah, it's a good question. So when I had to get one, it wasn't as easy as it is today, because now you can have mentors that you don't have to physically be in front of. You can have digital mentors, which I think is important.
And you could just DM them. You could literally, I DM'd you,
It's insane. It's insane.
It's insane. Yeah.
Access is open, right? So as far as finding a mentor, one, I look at it for kind of two aspects of it. I want to make sure they're doing what I want to be doing, right? So like, when I wanted to start Commune, this was new for me. I didn't understand fund management. I didn't understand private equity. First thing I did, I tried to go get in front of people that are currently doing it, right? So that I could learn from what they're doing. The second thing about a mentor, you want to make sure, at least I think it's important to make sure their character is aligned. I think it goes beyond business. So if I'm going to have a mentor, whether it's a man or a woman, I'll use man in this example.
Sure.
If I'm going to have a mentor, I want to make sure he's a man that I would inspire to be, right? I don't want to have a mentor who's good at business and is cheating on his wife, not, neglecting the kids. That is not for me, right? I want somebody to have good character and be good at business. So I have that qualification as something that's important. If that's not for you, that's fine. But for me, that's pretty important.
Yeah. Anything else? Like if someone's listening, they're like, want to start or expand their small, but a lot of people I speak to are artists, creatives. Any other bit of advice about seeking and getting a mentor or what you'd look for?
What's really important in my perspective is finding a mentor that has done what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Bottom line.
It really is. It's like, if somebody's done it and they're going to help you get to where you need to go, it's worth every penny.
Are they walking the walk? And it's interesting because like now that I've been in the world of like coaching, life coaching, financial coaching, it's crazy how many people are trying to get into it.
Right.
And there's like 19-year-old business coaches.
Right.
And you're like, okay, well, what business have you started? How long has it been in business? Because you are 18. If you've been doing this since you were 12, like, cool, let's work together. But yeah, so just make sure they're walking the talk,
Right. And then I think from there, it's like, look, you might get one and maybe they're not great. Okay, fine. Move on to a next one. Like you're going to have to do due diligence on a mentor the same way you would do due diligence on an investment, or if you're going to buy something, so make sure
sometimes you got to cut your losses.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Have you ever personally hired a coach before, a life coach or business coach?
No, I actually haven't. For me, well, let me take a step back. That's actually not totally accurate, because in theory, my mentor that I spoke of, that my parents connected me with, I was paying him to manage my money.
Right.
And I was paying him for planning. The benefit that I received is it was atypical in my perspective for a financial advisor and planner to spend the time he spent with me personally on educating me. Right. Like there's a lot of advisors that will just like put you in stocks and bonds and rebalance your portfolio, and you don't really ever hear from them other than maybe a biannual update, but there's no education process. There's no alternative investments. I lucked out in a sense where he actually worked on me to help educate me so that I could go do the things he was doing for me if I chose.
Yeah.
So I kind of was getting that added value, but I was paying for his service as well. Other than him, no, I haven't. But I think why I haven't is with the companies that I've started, especially Commune, I brought partners in when I started it that were all more qualified than myself.
Right.
I mean, very, very, very sharp
You
and
didn't
experienced
need
people.
to pay someone. They were getting paid in a sense. They were seeing a return on their time and effort
Right,
working with you, and you didn't
right,
directly pay them or hire them for that. But yeah, that makes
right.
sense.
So like one of my partners, Jerry, he's CFO of our company. He's co-president with me. He's a machine. He's one of the most brilliant people I've ever met. So like there's times where I just sit in his office and go, Jerry, I'm gonna be in here for an hour. I'm gonna ask you questions. And
Yeah.
I'm just soaking up everything that's coming out of his mouth, right? So it's like, I don't have to pay for that, but I was
Right.
able
Right.
to start a
Right.
company with him that gave me access to that.
Yeah. 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 No, cool. I was curious because I have my entire life, and my parents, or was particularly my father, who is a consultant, kind of a therapist, really, but he was engaged in the est movement in the 60s 70s and like landmark, and so I eventually begrudgingly ended up taking some courses and stuff like that. Totally didn't want to be any part of it at first, and then it made such a profound impact on my life that
Right.
I sought it out. I paid for courses. I've paid to work with coaches. And like you said, I've been able to accomplish in a couple years, in 1 year, what would have probably, I would have never been able to accomplish on my own. But if I did, it could have taken me 5, 10 years,
Right.
and it would have been a lot more painful. Yeah, just overwhelming had I not had someone who was doing what I wanted to do show
Correct.
me the ropes.
Correct. It's important.
What's some like bad advice you've gotten from people, or bad advice that you hear on social media? Because there's so much stuff being shared today. I'm just curious if there's anything that stood out and you're like, whoa, can't believe people are spitting that.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good.
Advice is, it's also relative. So good advice for one person is not good for another. That's also true.
Yeah, that's valuable. And look, a lot of what you hear on social media, it's like semantics. You're saying something that can go both ways, but at least the time you get to say it, it's very hard to like actually go in depth on what they meant, right? Like one example would be like with business, right? A lot of people will say, "Oh yeah, don't worry about the income coming in, just like hire people that are more qualified for you, spend the money that you can't afford because their value is going to produce the revenue that you're going to need to pay them." Right? It's like chicken and the
Right.
egg scenario, right?
Right.
And the the hard part about that is, yes, that could potentially be right. The other part about it is if you're not making revenue, you can't support these people, right?
And how are
So
you
you're
going to eat meantime?
right. So you're balancing this thing, but on the other end, like I know the importance of like you need to make investments to get your business to the position it needs to be to make money. It's just at what time do you do so, right?
Yeah.
My view is if you're not like building to exit, right? If you're not doing these, seed round and series A and B and C and D, and you're bleeding cash just to get to an exit, that's a different thing. But for like my business, we focus on our revenue and
Yeah.
our revenue supports our growth. And so we want to have a business that's going to be here for 10 years. We don't want to have a business that only was here for 2. And so
Right.
sometimes that puts us in a position where we want to grow, but the revenue is not there for the business. Then we have the decision to make as partners if we're willing to put more investment in to be able to bring some of this stuff to light. Growing a business is hard. There's
Yeah.
challenges to it. I would say, look, as far as like crazy shit I've heard a lot of wild stuff in crypto.
Yeah.
Invest everything you have in crypto because it's the future.
Right.
It's going to be worth 100x. Like
Right.
that's
In the
crazy to me.
meantime, how are you going to eat though? Right.
Right, right,
Again.
right. That's crazy to me. Look, a lot of times you hear about like leverage, right? This is probably a really good one. Leverage is really powerful, right? You can borrow money that can increase your return and increase your ability to own more, right? But
Yeah.
it's very easy to over leverage.
Yeah.
And when times are good, you see kind of a lot of people go, I can't lose. Like everything's going up. I'm going to make my money. And no one prepares for something going wrong. And then they do. And the entire, house of cards comes tumbling down. Anyone who says, no, everything's always going to appreciate, real estate always appreciates. No, it doesn't. That's not true.
Yeah.
right? There are times where real estate goes down, and you don't know if you're going to be in a position when it does to be able to hold that asset to potentially rebound. So yes, you can lose money with something like real estate. I would say the other thing is, like, a lot of people we see, they look at the price tag and go, it's so cheap, I'm going to buy that. You can buy a house in Ohio for 35 grand, right?
Right.
That's insanely cheap. I should do that. Well, the reality is that doesn't mean it's worth it. Even
Right.
if they're selling a house for $1,000, that doesn't mean that you should own it. Doesn't mean that it's a good investment.
Right.
I'm sure when I get off this phone, I'm gonna think of a ton of crazy ones.
I'm sure. Yeah. We'll follow up sometime, but the leverage conversation is near and dear to me because I kind of wish I had some mentors. I kind of stumbled into figuring out how to use debt wisely to increase my earning potential. Right. So, I mean, the simplest way I did it, and this is available to everyone. And again, this is not advice because this can also hurt you. I view debt as it's like a power tool, right? If you have a skill saw, really powerful tool, you can cut through 12 cords of wood way quicker and create something beautiful with all that power. You can also slice your hand off.
Right.
If you don't know what you're doing. Something I've done in the past is, I was looking to expand my tattoo studio from a 250 square foot space to a 700 square foot space. And, I had investments and I had savings that I could pull from, but I could also get a business credit card with 0% interest for a whole year and never spend more on that card than I had in assets. So that I knew, right, I'm borrowing this money. I don't have to sell investments, but I knew that, I had it to back it up. And then I could borrow the money at 0% interest, use it to grow the business, have the business produce more income, and then pay the debt back before it ever saw 1 penny of interest. And that's something that again, it's something to be interested in, to look in, but you want to be sure, can the business I'm putting money into, am I just going to buy cool furniture and stuff? Or am I actually putting that money into things that are going to create more money?
Correct.
Yeah.
It's a good analogy about the chainsaw or the power tool.
Yeah. Because you also have I'm in a bunch of Facebook groups with financial coaches, and there are people that are like, debt is bad. Don't use debt. You're bad for using debt, for even thinking it's immoral even, Right. And I just think that's a very dangerous mentality to have, because I think the world we live in today, I think it'd be very difficult to build wealth without debt in the world we live in today. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The hard part about debt is you're totally right. And it sounds insane to say this, but there's a lot of people that should go nowhere near debt.
Absolutely.
Right? Because what debt does is debt challenges greed, right?
Yeah.
Brings out the worst in us. And if you have a hard time controlling something like greed, which is hard to control, it can take everything from you. Right.
Yeah.
So there's some people, don't even put yourself in that position. It's just, it's going to be difficult. If you understand how to use it though, it is powerful. I mean, it's insane what you can do with it. You can buy more, you can increase your return. Now you start talking about tax efficiency, and you start looking at how our system maneuvers. Look, the name of the game is how do I make as much as I can and pay as little in taxes for that?
Right. And if you can get debt, you're not paying taxes on that money that was just injected into your business.
You're never taxed on debt. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. In fact, you can write off the interest and pay even less if you had to, right?
You can do some crazy stuff.
But yeah, it's a double-edged sword. You can hurt yourself so quickly. I recently actually made one of the largest investments I've ever made in my life into my business, into a coach, really a coaching program. It's definitely something where I'm like, okay, I know we're headed into some recession territory if we're not already there.
Right.
Do I want to spread myself super thin? And I view money as this kind of flow of energy. There's these channels. I don't really look at it as something I have or I don't have. It's flowing into and out of my life. If I'm going to make the decision to take on debt, to borrow money and leverage it to increase my income, I want to be sure that I can see there's a big pool of energy that I can tap into by using that debt. And when I can see that opportunity and I have proof, I'm not just speculating, I need some proof that there's something that works in it, then I don't have a hard time making a quick decision about it. Yeah, I think a lot of being an entrepreneur is like being very patient and then knowing when the time is to strike and having the experience, the knowledge, and the cojones to make that call.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah, dude. Well, I'm loving this conversation. I got some more thoughtful questions. Do you have any questions for me? I'm just like, if you had anything, because again, we don't know each other that well.
What we share is that skateboarding and art, these are both creative communities, creative cultures, etc. And most creatives, I don't know why, struggle with money.
If you had to speculate why do you think that? I think about this sometimes.
Okay, if I were to guess,
if you were to guess, right? This is not fact. This is
so. Look, you have the people that are typically good at, let's say, money management. That specific task of money, right?
Right. Not necessarily making money, but money management.
Money management, right? It's more of an analytical operator, I think.
Yeah.
It's like somebody who's good with numbers. It's black and white. They're task oriented. It's boom, 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 right?
Yeah.
Creatives, in my perspective, don't like being boxed into that narrow, I do, that's all, right? Creatives are like, they look at the world differently, right?
Yeah.
I think because of that, their brains work in a way where it's not about boom, boom, boom. It's about how do I create and change and push the boundaries, etc. And maybe there's something about money management that is just, I don't know if it's boring, if it's just recognized as I'm not good at that. I'm not sure. What I found is creatives can be like incredible business builders, right?
Yeah.
If they have the organization behind them to be what they aren't, right? So like for me, for example, like I don't see myself as like an ultra creative, but I definitely have a creative outlook. I am not an operational person, right? I'm not like a task oriented, like I attack and get it done. Let's go for it. So I have to bring those people into my corner that are good at the things I'm not, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes I think that people don't realize all of the components that go into building business. They think either they have to be the entrepreneur that's an operator, and if they're not, they don't get to participate in building business, right? Mm-hmm. But what I learned is if you understand the components that go into business and understand a value that you can add that will then give you equity and participation in upside, then you can be a business owner even if you're not an operator. Yeah. Right? You just have to kind of understand that it's not one person that makes a good entity. It's a lot of different people, and you just need to find out what your talent is that others lack.
Yeah.
And so I think creatives have the potential to build huge businesses.
Absolutely.
I just don't know if I don't know what
I think they have more potential.
I do too.
I think that's what our world, if you look at our global economy, I personally believe what's missing is creative thinking. Right. I think so many people are boxed in to an old way, an old belief system, an old story about money.
Right.
And we've all bought in to this story about money.
Right.
And it's so limiting. And it's so, like you said, just like boxed in.
Right.
And I think, there's so many issues that we're facing: climate, social change, all these things. And money impacts every single one of them deeply. If anyone argues against that, I mean, I'll listen, but I think if we found a way to empower, and this is my life's mission, to empower the creatives of the world, to put more money in the hands of creative people, open-minded thinkers who aren't, stuck in the things I believe are the only ways that everyone should believe, I don't hold my own beliefs very tightly. I am willing to give them over to something new. And I think that's something that creative people do, artists do. I can't think of a single problem that we couldn't solve on the planet if we put more money in the hands of creative people.
Right. Look, I have a similar mission of impacting creatives too, just from skateboarding. So I love that.
How old are you right now?
39.
39. If you were 29 and you had not much money in the bank and you were trying to get some creative thing off the ground, right? You were fortunate to be surrounded by a bunch of talented skateboarders and a bunch of things, right? So in some ways, you ever read that book Outlier by
Yeah, of course,
Malcolm
of course.
Gladwell?
Right.
You happen to be born in a particular place at a particular time where 6 other people from where you were born turned into pro skateboarders, right?
Correct.
A higher chance that you would become one just simply but if you were 29 getting, on the grind, you have some product or some art or something, what do you feel like your next move would be to get it to take off, or your next 3 moves, or how would you think about that? I'm curious.
Yeah, that's a good point. For me personally, I think the hardest thing when starting a business is brand awareness. I think it's really difficult in the beginning to get your product or your service or whatever it is you're doing out there. And you can have an incredible product, but if no one knows what it is, you're not making any sales. And like they say, sales solves all problems, right? So if I had a product in the beginning or a service, does TikTok exist when I'm 29?
In this parallel universe, TikTok actually exists in this.
Okay,
yes.
Good. I would put all of my energy towards building a brand on TikTok, all of it.
All of it.
I would probably, the thing about TikTok and why this thing's so powerful, why I'm using it as
you
an example,
told me this and I still haven't taken advantage of it. And you told me this when we first met. I'm going to have to do it.
The reason why I'm saying this is because I experienced Instagram in 2011, 2010, 2011, what it did for our business, right?
Right.
And what I always said was when Instagram first started, it was insane, right? It was all available. You could do whatever you wanted. People were paying attention. You were growing. It was huge. I remember 2016, and I'm talking to all my friends going, dude, this is whack now. None of this works. It's dead, right? And we'd always say, dude, if we could just go back. And then TikTok hits, and TikTok was like Instagram on crack. It is so much gnarlier of a platform, and it's organic right now, right? So your ability to be seen, to grow, to have a life-changing moment that will impact your business is totally available right now, right? It's Instagram, you had to have a following for this to apply. TikTok, you do not. You don't need a following at all. Game change overnight, right?
What do you just need to have a good product, a good message,
you just have
good camera. What do you need?
None of it. This is the genius of it. You need your phone, right? I
have one of those. I have a phone. Yeah.
Right. So look, this is the beauty of it. Anyone that has a phone, this could change their lives, right? All you have to do is build good content. That's it. And how their algorithm works and why TikTok's, stealing everything from everyone else is you create a video and that video goes out to a dark audience. It does not matter how many followers you have. It's irrelevant, right? The watch time and the response time that cold, dark, small audience gives you then tricks the algorithm or tells the algorithm that they're going to send it out to more and more people. So you go to a dark audience of small. If it performs well, it goes out to a bigger one and then a bigger one and then virality, right?
Right. Which is really how viralness works. That's the definition of it right there.
Correct. So when you think of how TikTok created their platform, they want kids and us, and this is where it becomes dangerous, to be on the app for as long as possible.
Right.
So what they're trying to do is make you hooked in to really entertaining content that makes you not put your phone down, right?
Right.
That part's dangerous, but on our end, on the creator end, what that does is if you have no following and you make a good video, that thing's going out to a ton of people.
Yeah.
You can go from having 10 followers, which happened to me. I had 10 followers. I had one video get 9 million views, right? All of a sudden I have 30,000 followers. I'm like, yo, hello, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then I grind, get my way to 70,000 followers. And I'm like, okay, dude, I got to get to 100. One video, 7 million views. I'm at 250,000 followers, just like that. So really, when you think of it, I had 2 videos that got me 250,000 followers.
Right, right.
And the energy.
You have to feed the beast constantly to get there, that's the feeling I have on Instagram is, just to feed the beast, you know?
So that is, I get that feeling, but what's powerful about TikTok is the people on the platform actually act. So if you have a business, right, and you're creating content around yourself, your business, people are connecting with you, your sales are going to go through the roof. And in a startup, when you're trying to be seen, you now have a free app that can give you exposure to everyone, that's going to translate to sales, that's going to bring in revenue, that's going to give you the ability to hire more people, grow your organization, and all of a sudden, one stinking app change your business and change your life.
You know what I'm realizing as I'm listening to you talk about this, and I don't know if this is something that everyone does or I do, but I'm observing I have some biases against TikTok, and I'm hearing you tell me, Ryan, this is the new shit. Like, this is the shit. Get on it, do it. I'm also simultaneously hearing the conversation in my head that's saying, I'm too old for this shit.
Right.
Are my clients really on there? Do I really want to get onto another platform? I have all this stuff, and I don't know if you do this, if everyone, I don't know if a lot of people do this, but like, I listen to the filter from outside of it, and I'm like, hey, Ryan, is that conversation helping you? Because dude here, got some advice to tell you. Are you really hearing what he's saying, or are you listening to your own bullshit about what he's saying? And
right.
When I put that aside, I'm like, yeah, let me let go of that,
Let me speak on that, because I totally get it. For me, I recognize that I do that, and I know when I do it, right? If I start a business, right, it happens every time. I come up with the idea. I think it's a good idea. I can't break it apart early on. I'm like, okay, we're going for this thing, right?
Yeah.
I start building up my business plan. I start bringing it to a point. It always gets to the spot in which I can't turn back, right?
Yeah.
Once I get there, I begin to talk myself out of doing it. Happens every single time, right? I had to learn that for me, there's a fear element when it comes to crossing the line of the point of no return. That when I hear myself do what you just did, now that's okay, I'm trying to talk myself out of it. That's my indicator that I'm pushing myself, and it's time to really force, right?
Yeah.
Now with TikTok, yes, I went through that. Of course I did, right? I'm like, I'm not going to go do some stupid dance moves. I'm like, what am I going to compete with these 12-year-olds? Why would I do this, right? And this is what my friend told me, right? He goes, dude, when you got on Instagram, what was Instagram? And I was like, it was a photo app. It was just a bunch of photographers.
Right.
And he goes, what is it now? And I'm like, shit, you're right. So all of a sudden
what brain, is it now? To you, if you had to say, what is it now? If
it's a social platform for communication and brand build. Has nothing to do with photos anymore.
Yeah.
Nothing at all. Right. Like, dude, Instagram, seriously, when Instagram started, the only people on the explore page, right? It was models and photographers, and then skaters started creeping in, and we would just try to take cool photos that were artsy of us skateboarding. Right. That was the For You page, right?
Right.
Now it's how we communicate. It's how we absorb information.
Do you ever listen to the Duncan Trussell podcast, Duncan Trussell Family Hour? No. One of my absolute favorite podcasts. He's a comedian, but a deeply spiritual, wise individual. He interviews a lot of very interesting characters. He said, I think I remember him hearing Instagram it's like an ocean of butts.
Right.
That's what Instagram is.
Right.
It's just a sea.
Right.
Of butts.
Right.
Just swim in the ocean.
Right.
Butts.
Right.
Yeah.
I hear you. But look.
And it's also a tool for massive growth. And correct. I hear you saying TikTok. TikTok might also be a sea of dance moves and stuff, but it's also a tool for massive brain growth.
Look, the same way that Instagram was a platform for photographers, and now it is not, is the same way TikTok was going to be a dance platform, and now it is not. Right. Yeah. So here I'm going to bring it all together. Right.
Yeah.
Once I got on board with it, I set up a meeting with my partners, and I was like, hey guys, we're using TikTok. The company's using TikTok. I'm going to go hard on TikTok. All the rest, I'm going to put very little energy towards. I'm putting everything into TikTok. They looked at me like I was crazy. And they said the same thing you just said, right? Why? Yeah. There's no investors on TikTok. What are you going to do? How is this going to benefit the business, right? Trust me, boys, I'm doing it, right? Start doing it. And yeah, everybody's dancing. It's all kids dancing. I'm not. I'm sitting here just like talking about finance. Well, screw it, right? Before you know it, I've got a whole army of people following me because of financial literacy. And before you know it, all these people start coming into our company and wanting to invest with us because of TikTok. And the one that changed everything for me, I get onto a pitch call with Michael. I'm sitting in front of this guy, 65 years old, from Arkansas, something like that.
Okay.
Right. And I'm like, hey, I'm not going to say his name. Hey, Jim, how did you find us? Right. He goes, Mikey, I follow you on TikTok, right? He goes, I love your TikTok. I watch you every night and I send your content to my kids. And I'm like, amazing,
Ah,
right? I'm like, what do you do? And he goes, well, I've sold 3 businesses. I'm about to sell my 4th. I make this much, a lot of money. When he dropped how much he was looking at investing, right? I
yeah.
looked at my partner and went, I was right. TikTok works. And I give that example to everyone. This was probably a year and a half ago when this
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
And when somebody in the boomer generation
Right.
connected with us on TikTok, became an investor of ours for a
Yeah.
large dollar amount, I went, that's it. This is where
Wow.
it is. And then since then, it's like we get so many leads from TikTok. It's crazy.
Wow. I had no idea that this episode was going to turn into a big commercial for TikTok, but I'm
Look,
glad.
and I don't hype shit. Look, I don't hype shit unless I see it working in my life.
Totally.
TikTok
Yeah.
is gnarly. It's gnarly.
Right. And then, down the line, there will be something else. And
Correct.
we're all going to look at it and be like, fuck
Right.
that noise,
Right. But look, that's the same thing our parents said about Instagram, right?
Totally. Yeah.
So
yeah.
like, what?
And
Do you
so
want to be
just being aware of that. And I want to come back a little bit to what you were saying about what I call the fear barrier. That's actually a term in the, like Bob Proctor Gallagher. Yeah. Big fan of Bob Proctor, RIP. There's a thing in his course called the fear barrier. Right. And they teach you to acknowledge, to become like witness. Okay, I'm coming up against that fear barrier, right? The point of no return.
Right.
And that we normally shy away from it, right? We're naturally, evolutionarily, we're going to pull away from that fear. It's hot. It's like, get away. To calm yourself, to acknowledge it, and then you move into it.
Correct.
And I think that's what all successful entrepreneurs, every single successful entrepreneur on the planet has come up against the fear barrier more than once, right? More than 10, 20, 100, 1,000 times.
Right.
And we've moved into it instead of moving away from it.
Correct. The most encouraging thing should be everyone has that fear barrier. Everyone is scared. It's just your ability to push through. That's it. That's the only difference. Your ability to push through it.
Yeah. I get scared all the fucking time, dude.
Me too. Yeah, me too. I do too.
What do you do when you make a mistake? If you make a mistake, how do you deal with that? Or how would you like to deal with that?
Yeah, that's a good question.
This could be in life, investing, however you want to take it.
Yeah, I honestly, when I make mistakes, I just try to learn from them.
That's it, right?
That's it. I don't dwell on them. And to tell you the truth, for me, it's easier. As it pertains to let's call it the organization or the group, that's a little bit more challenging. We'll go into that. But dude, when I make a mistake, seriously, I don't dwell over it. It's, what did I do wrong? What should I have done? Okay, learn from it. Okay, I'm doing that next time. It's I don't dwell on it at all. The bigger challenge is when you're working with people, right? If you're leading your organization, a lot of times, and Ray Dalio articulated this beautifully in his book, Principles.
Yeah.
A lot of time, people that you're working with are scared to say that they made a mistake. Yeah. Because they're worried about being punished for it ultimately. Right. And what that does is that hurts the organization because no one's learning together and people are scared to take shots in a sense. Let's call them calculated, but they're scared to do things because they're scared to fail. You're not going to have success there. Right. So working with people to make sure they are okay when they make a mistake and then acknowledging it. This is what I did wrong. Right. There is no punishment. What did we learn from it? And if you learn from the mistake, and they're able to push yourself in a better position, mistakes are totally fine. Bad mistakes,
they're more than fine,
right.
And I definitely, years of work, coaching work, therapy on like fear of failure. I do. I have big fears of whatever I perceive as failure. And I created a mantra years ago, which was, it's like, I'm free to fail. I'm free. I give myself permission and freedom to fail. And I can't remember where I was hearing it or reading, I read a lot about, Jeff Bezos saying something about like, if they have too many endeavors that are succeeding, they're not growing fast enough. Right. They want to see they actually have a metric and they measure how many failures are we hitting and they have a goal for failures, for mistakes. And I was like, you can say what you want about Jeff, but I was inspired by that. I was like, am I making enough mistakes? Now it can get dangerous. You don't want to tilt it in the other way. But do you ever think about that? Like, am I making enough mistakes?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Maybe you will now.
Actually. Yeah. And I've never thought of it through that lens. I
Yeah.
I look at the just through the lens of like, am I pushing myself? I gauge it more on comfort.
It's
Am I
comfort. Yeah, yeah,
comfortable?
yeah.
If
I
I'm
agree.
comfortable, then that's kind of where I have to go. All right, this feels good, but it ain't good.
Right. You don't have to make mistakes. I think that's a good, like, you don't have to. And I do a lot of things where I'm like, am I making a mistake? I'll question it. But that's because I'm in my uncomfort zone. I think the moral of that is you don't have to make mistakes, but are you in your familiar place? Or
Right.
are you, I like to look at it as like our goals should exist as it's like a plant in a plant pot, right? It can only
Right.
grow as big as the size of that pot. Your life can only grow as big as the size of your goals.
Right.
And if you're vague or aren't specific about those goals, they will actually limit, the parameters of how big your life, your career, whatever's can get. When you set the goals to put your plant in a much bigger pot than you think you can even fill,
Right.
that's when you've moved into unfamiliar and uncomfortable territory. And I live there. I try to stay, drown myself in uncomfortable, unfamiliar territory to the point where you just like, you kind of get comfortable in it.
Right. Right. Well said.
I think we could wrap it up and like, let's have another conversation in the future. I know that we're going to be talking. I'm going to be bugging you to turn you into a mentor of mine.
Let's do it.
And
Too easy. Too easy.
Yeah, dude. If there's any last note you want to leave people with, or also maybe just let people know how they can see more of your content, how they can find you on TikTok and everywhere else.
Yeah. So if you want to find me at just Mikey Taylor on all the
Mikey Taylor.
platforms, yeah, you'll
Yeah.
find me. I'm verified on them, which is cool. So you'll know it's me. Something we could leave the audience with. Here's a good one. You brought up the recession, right? Look, this might be a shallow recession. This could be a deep one. We'll see. If this is your first time going through one, though, everything around you is going to tell you it's bad, it's awful. It's going to be very, very fear driven. What I want you to work on through this is in these moments of uncertainty, that's when the greatest opportunity lies. So if we are heading into, let's say, a deep recession, what we are going to see because of this is the greatest companies are going to be started here, and you're going to see them continue for the next decade. The wealth is built in these moments. So stay away from media and hype and just focus on uncertainty brings opportunity. Find the opportunity and it's going to bless you.
Dude, I love that. I couldn't have thought of a better thing to leave. Thank you so much. Thank you for
Of
your
course.
time.
Of
And
course.
we'll be in touch. We'll talk soon, man.
Thanks for having me, big dog.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed the show. Again, I just want to prompt that if you got some value out of this conversation, please go and leave us a rating and a review on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you saw this podcast. It really helps me out and it really helps other people to find this podcast. I want more people to have these types of conversations around money so that we can all be more free and at ease and abundant and able to create the lives that we really want to live. So please share this and rate and review. Appreciate it. Thanks.